On the news tonight, State Legislature reiterates commitment in ensuring the education sector meets expectations of Deltans. State government prohibits waterways journeys without use of life jackets. Federal government appeals to electricity workers not to down tools over electricity tariff hike. Abroad, military junta suspends political activities in Mali. Hello, good evening. Thank you for joining us on Delta Television News tonight. My name is Onome Iyaroe. The Chairman House Committee of House of Assembly on Education, Honorable Charles Emetulu, has reiterated the commitment of the 8th Assembly in ensuring the education sector meets the expectations of Deltans. Honorable Emetulu stated this when he led members of the committee to the Delta State Polytechnic Ogwashuku and Dennis Osadebe University, Asaba, in continuation of its oversight visit to education institutions in the state. Henry Usiayo has details.
Honorable Emetulu expressed satisfaction with the level of projects executed by the management of the institutions. He emphasized that the visit was part of the state legislature's oversight function and ascertained first-hand information on the use of financial appropriations. The lawmakers stressed the 8th Assembly was poised to achieve positive results in all sectors of the state's economy.
Let me also commend you for the things you are doing. There has to be a meeting point where, because you have IGR, because the state government allows you a lot of independence in managing your IGR, where these infrastructure are extremely important and needed. The state government should not hold back in inviting the schools to take over and possibly complete them.
Honorable Emetulu, alongside members of the committee, inspected some completed and ongoing projects at the Delta State Polytechnic, Ogwashuku, where he commended the rector and management of the institution for making the Polytechnic a technological-driven school.
Education is an investment today that yields tomorrow. Having said that, let me also commend you for bringing your personal expertise to bear.
At the Dennis Osadebe University, Asaba, Honorable Emetulu said the university had experienced rapid growth. He enjoined the management of the university to take more proactive steps in improving its internally generated revenue and synergize with the Commissioner for Higher Education in solving some of its challenges.
Universities are never developed even in this century. Universities are like airports. You keep adding, you keep building. Tomorrow, you want to inaugurate new faculties, new departments. It's all part of growth. But you see, the biggest joy we have as a committee is that we made recommendations, the recommendations were accepted. I'm happy that the schools are growing. I'm very encouraged. One guarantee we can give to you that you have our backing at all times.
Earlier, the rector of the Delta State Polytechnic, Ogwashuku, Professor Emmanuel Achwenu, and the Vice Chancellor of the Dennis Osadebe University, Professor Ben Urojafo, highlighted some of the achievements and the challenges facing them and appealed for government intervention in mitigating the challenges.
Accreditation and equipment, of course. Delta State Polytechnic Ogwashuku has well over 60 programs, and all the programs are accredited 100%. Our prayer, as a polytechnic, we urgently need special intervention. Special intervention to carry out our internal rules completion. Mentioned before, we need perimeter fencing, completion of the ongoing project, befitting functional administrative block. But the main one, which has been giving us very serious problem, is employment, staffing.
For territorial services and security. As of today, the study should have gone into digital security rather than manual.
Other members of the House Committee on the tour include the Vice Chairman, Honorable Benson Obire, Honorable Ferguson Onwo, Honorable Emmanuel Sinebe, Honorable Matthew Omonade, Honorable Chukudi Dafe, Honorable Bridget Ayanfolo, and Honorable Marilyn Okowa Daramola. Henry Usiayu reporting.
The state government has reiterated its admonition to Deltans to let peace prevail to allow for rapid development in all parts of the state. The special advisor to the state governor on peace building and conflict resolution, Chief Edwin Uzo, gave the admonition when he met with leaders and elders of Ogbowa and Afisere communities in Ugili North local government area in Asaba. Deborah Walowo completes the report.
Chief Uza said the Governor Sheriff Oboriwori administration was committed to ensuring peaceful coexistence amongst communities in the state, to foster growth and to also consolidate on the legacy of peace of the previous administrations. He noted that the meeting followed a petition to Governor Sheriff Oboriwori from the Ogboran community against Afizere community pertaining to boundary disputes.
We are told a petition that there's an issue. This petition is written to the Governor of Delta State, Governor House of through the Special Advisor's Office. Your Excellency, petition dated 25th March 2024, shared by Afisere community, warmongers, to overrun and take over Ogbowa community, appeal for immediate and urgent government intervention to avoid a breakdown of law and order.
Chief Uzo said it was the duty of elders and communities to steer youth in the right direction to ensure peace and tranquility in the state. The special advisor admonished leaders of the communities to refrain from using words that could ignite conflicts, adding that he would visit the communities to permanently resolve the land disputes.
But for now, everybody should go and maintain peace. That secondary school, Obama, sorry if I don't pronounce it. No, I'm not going to. So forgive me, but I didn't know. So that symbol, go and re-elect that symbol back. The other place you are saying is harassment. We will visit there to look at that place, to know the right language, that place wants. Because the right language must be used there. Yes.
Earlier, leaders and elders of Afizere and Ogbowan communities spoke extensively on the land disputes, calling on the state government to resolve the matter amicably to enable the communities live together.
They just call on us one fateful day that something is happening, that if we didn't handle the thing now, time to come, Ogbowan will claim our lands that are occupying.
Where from this junction of the street now, it's about 3 kilometers, if not more than. It's owned by Ogbowan community. We are the one that sold to Ogbowan Afisere. The land we have in Afisere community is more than 150 acres of land.
At the end of the meeting, both communities signed a peace pact. Deborah Okonkwo reporting.
The State Executive Council has constituted and chaired by the Governor Sheriff Oboriwori has been described as a blend of super technocrats and result-oriented youth learning the ropes to be great leaders of tomorrow. The Executive Assistant on Communications to the State Governor and Head of the State Orientation Bureau, Dr. Latimo Genesiwe, made the assertion in a statement in Asaba. He said preparing the younger generation to take over core leadership roles in governance was dear to the heart of Governor Sheriff Oboriwori. Dr. Genesiwe was reacting to a statement credited to a former governor of the state, Chief James Ibori, where he criticized the composition of the state cabinet, said there were well-known super technocrats in the State Executive Council, saddled with the responsibility of mentoring the younger members of cabinet to become effective leaders of tomorrow. He noted that during Governor Oboriwori's electioneering campaigns in 2023, he specifically assured the youth that they would be adequately represented in the scheme of things and in major appointments, pointing out that at the federal level, President Bola Tinubu's cabinet was an intersection of the old breed and the younger generation. Dr. Genesiwe maintained that Governor Oboriwori would remain a youth-friendly governor, adding that the governor would continue to groom and work with focused and intelligent youth in line with the core objectives of his more agenda. On consultations and asking for help as canvassed by Chief Ibori, The executive assistant thanked the former governor for his willingness to join hands with Governor Boriwori in matters of public interest and appealed that the former governor should not wait until he is called upon because he remained a major stakeholder in the affairs of Delta State, having served as governor from 1999 to 2007. He appealed to Chief Ibori to consider abstaining from criticizing Governor Sheriff Oborewori publicly, adding that as a major stakeholder in the state, the former governor had unrestricted access to the incumbent and all cabinet members. The state's government has prohibited journeys on waterways in the state by practitioners in the movie industry without the use of life jackets and other safety apparatus. The prohibition is contained in a condolence message by the Commissioner for Culture and Tourism, Dr. Nnamdi Ije, to the families of those who lost their lives in the ill-fated boat incident on the River Niger, including John Paul Odowodo, popularly known as Junior Pope. The message conveyed the sympathies of the Delta State government and the creative industry family in the state on the unfortunate incident. It said the government took the life of every citizen as a priority and warned against marine journeys without the required safety gadgets and precautions, including life jackets and the engagement of expert divers. The government prayed for strength for the families of the bereaved in coping with the loss. The Senate Committee on Oil and Gas Host Communities has mandated the Managing Director of Total Energies, Mr. Matthew Boyer, to appear before it in his own interest. The committee said that Mr. Boyer had refused his previous invitations to interfere with it on the matters bordering or to interface with him on matters bordering on the implementation challenges of the Petroleum Industry Act, PIA, and the pressing need to address the grievances of host communities, as well as the mode of operation by the oil company. In a statement today in Abuja, the chairman of the Senate Committee, Senator Benson Agadaga, said the Senate panel expressed disappointment in Mr. Boyer for refusing to honor an invitation, stating that it was against all democratic conventions and spirit of public service. Frowning at the attitude of the MD, the lawmakers noted that it had become customary for some oil companies to delegate representatives rather than attending meetings with legislative panels in person. They said that the issues at stake needed the physical appearance of the chief executives, who are expected to speak for themselves and not through proxies. The panel chairman also emphasized that oil and gas companies must ensure transparency. The Minister of Works, Senator David Umahi, has stated that shanty dwellers and caravan owners along the shorelines of the Lagos-Calabar 700-kilometer coastal road project will not be compensated by the federal government. He said only those with permanent structures would be compensated during the course of demolition. Senator Umahi stated this while addressing stakeholders meeting on the Lagos-Calabar Highway project alongside property owners seeking compensation on the planned demolition of houses along the coastal highway project. He said he inherited over 2,600 projects from the past administration, adding that the incumbent government, in its effort to bolster infrastructure milestones, appropriated the projects into the 2024 budget to redesign the projects towards completion. Senator Umahi added that the Ministry of Works has a funding gap of 2.7 trillion naira, noting that President Bola Tinubu was committed to closing the gaps with the prudency to drive project completion across the country. He said the project would cost a tentative sum of 15.356 trillion naira and will be completed in 8 years. The Joint Admissions and Matriculations Board, JAMB, has concluded plans for the successful conduct of the 2024 Unified Matriculation Examination, UTME. In a statement, the board warned that any candidate who is 30 minutes late would not be allowed to sit for the examination and would be marked as absent. The examination is scheduled to hold between Friday 19th April 2024 and Monday 29th April 2024 in over 700 CBT centers nationwide. It will be recalled that 1,985,642 candidates had successfully registered to sit for the 2024 UTME. It advised candidates to adhere to the guidelines of the examination as stipulated in their notification slips and be at the venue of the examination at the scheduled time so as to afford them the opportunity of going through biometric verification prior to their admittance into the examination hall. The board also reiterates its zero tolerance for examination infractions and other unwholesome practices that could be detrimental to the conduct of the examinations. It encouraged candidates not to put decorative designs or tattoos on their palms, as designs or tattoos would impact the biometric screening at the center, and enjoined parents not to come near the examination halls. Nigeria's inflation rate rose to 32.20% in March 2024 from 31.70% in February 2024. This was disclosed in the National Bureau of Statistics NBS March Consumer Price Index and Inflation Report. The March 2024 headline inflation rate increased by 1.50% compared to the February 2024 headline inflation rate. On a year-on-year basis, the headline inflation rate was 11.16%, higher than the 22.04% recorded in March 2023. This shows that the headline inflation rate year-on-year basis increased in March compared to the same month in the preceding year, March 2023. The report indicated that on a month-on-month basis, the headline inflation rate in March 2024 was 3.02%, which was 0.10% lower than the rate recorded in February 2024, 3.12%. The development showed that in March, the rate of increase in the average price level is less than the rate of increase in the average price level in February 2024. This is the 8th time the inflation rate is rising since the commencement of President Bola Tinubu's administration on May 29, 2023. The Chairman, Chief Executive Officer of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, retired Brigadier General Mohammed Marwa, has said 50,901 drug offenders, including 46 barons, have been arrested in the past 38 months. He stated this in Lagos today in his remarks at the commissioning and handing over ceremony of an operational facility built and donated to NDLEA by the British government. General Marwa said within the period, the agency secured the conviction of 9,034 drug offenders, as well as seized over 7,561 tons of illicit substances. The NDLEA boss said the development has sent the right message to drug cartels and their kingpins that Nigeria would not tolerate their criminal activities. General Marwa expressed satisfaction in the generous support, noting that would further boost the capability of the anti-narcotic agency in tackling the menace of substance abuse and illicit drug trafficking in Nigeria. He said the gesture was a significant milestone in the ongoing fight against the scourge of illicit and licit drug trafficking. The NDLEA chairman expressed gratitude to the British government for their unwavering commitment and invaluable contributions to the cause. The Enugu state government has urged tanker drivers operating across the state to color code their water tankers to indicate they are carrying clean, safe drinking water or industrial water in line with the Enugu State Water Sector Law of 2023. The secretary to the state government, SSG, Professor Chidi Ebere Onya, told the water tanker drivers during a meeting that government was committed to protecting members of the public against exploitation by some tanker drivers who fetch unclean water from unhealthy environments and sell to residents as safe drinking water, adding that the state had already constituted a task force that would from time to time stop and inspect water being conveyed by the tanker drivers. He warned of severe punishment for erring water tanker drivers. In line with the state's water law, which require every water tanker be either sky blue color to reflect clean drinking water or yellow color to reflect industrial water. The federal government has appealed to members of the National Union of Electricity Employees not to down tools over the recent electricity tariff hike. An official of the union, Mr. Adebi Adeyeye, in an interview with journalists, said the union stood by its warning to the federal government. The Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission had on April 3 raised the electricity tariff for customers enjoying 20 hours of power supply daily. Customers in the category were said to be under the Band A classification, and increase raised their tariff to 225 naira per kilowatt per hour from 66 naira kilowatts per hour. In its earlier reaction, the union had warned the federal government to reverse the tariff hike, saying it would not hesitate to take strong action, including the swift withdrawal of its members from offering their services. Patient Kano leading to 5 deaths. Among the deceased was a popular actor, Paul Odomodo, also known as Junior Pope, Abigail Frederick, Precious Oforum, and Joseph Anointing. The Bureau, which probes transportation accidents, said its investigators were on site of the accident to ascertain the cause of the disaster. The Director of Public Affairs and Consumer Protection of the Bureau, Mrs. Bimbo Oladeji, said the Bureau would collaborate with the Marine Police Section of the Anambra Police Command, maritime authorities, and the industry experts in its investigations. Mrs. Oladeji noted that the scope of the investigation would include examination of the wreckage from both vessels, interviews with surviving crew and eyewitnesses, review of operational procedures for the commercial speedboat, analysis of weather and environmental conditions, and assessment of compliance with safety standards and regulations. She expressed the NSIB sympathy to loved ones of the victims of the boat accident. The coroner magistrate, Kalhel Kadiri, inquiring into the cause of death of a student of Durham College, Lagos, Master Sylvester Romoni, has cleared the school and its students of any wrongdoings. The coroner returned a verdict that the deceased died a natural death. In a judgment that lasted over 6 hours, the coroner also held that the death was however avoidable, as the negligence of the parents and the medical team also contributed to it. Magistrate Kadiri absolved some students of Durham College named in the incident, as he concluded that they played no part in the death of Mr. Sylvester Romoni and should not have been involved in the matter. The coroner also gave some recommendations to forestall further incidents of this sad nature. He advised parents not to take their children's health with levity. He He also called for a synergy between the police and the medical team, as well as for the police to ensure due caution before arrests are made. Magistrate Kajuri recommended that the management of Durham College should ensure proper documentation of entry and exit of students out of the hostel, as well as proper psychological evaluation for the 5 students suspected to have bullied the deceased. You're watching the Delta Television main news. Up ahead, military junta suspends political activities in Mali. Details of this and more after this short break. Please stay tuned. Welcome back to the Delta Television main news. The global scene is next as we join our world news desk.
Donald Trump has set foot in a New York courthouse and become the first former U.S. president to stand trial in a criminal case. He is accused of falsifying his business records to disguise a hush money payment made to Stormy Daniels, a former adult film star, shortly before the 2016 election. Mr. Trump's historic trial is taking place against the backdrop of his presidential campaign and could ultimately see the presumptive Republican nominee become a convicted felon months before voters head to the polls in November. A professor of history and public policy at Harvard University's Kennedy School, Professor Alex Kaiser, said it was unprecedented, adding that there had been nothing remotely comparable to it. The trial, which will begin with jury selection, the highest-ranking Syrian military official to be tried in Europe, has appeared in a Stockholm court for his alleged role in war crimes committed in 2012 during Syria's civil war. 65-year-old former Syrian Brigadier General Mohammed Hamel, who lives in Sweden, stood accused of aiding and abetting war crimes during Syria's civil war, which could carry a sentence of life in jail. The war in Syria between Bashar al-Assad's regime and armed opposition groups, including the Islamic State, erupted after the government repressed peaceful pro-democracy protests in 2011. It had killed more than 500,000 people, displaced millions, and ravaged the country's economy and infrastructure. According to the charge sheet, Hamel contributed until late May. Prosecutors say that the Syrian army warfare had included widespread air and ground attacks by unknown perpetrators within the Syrian army. The prosecution argues that strikes were carried out without distinction as required by international law between civilian and military targets. In his role as a brigadier general and head of an armament division, he allegedly helped with the coordination and supply of arms to units, enabling the carrying out of orders on an operational level. Hamel's lawyer, Mr. Mary Kilman, told newsmen that her client denied committing a crime but said she did not wish to comment further ahead of the trial. The ruling military junta in Mali has suspended all political activities in the country until further notice. A spokesman, Colonel Abdoulaye Maïga, said the suspension was motivated by what he called sterile discussions during an attempt at national dialogue earlier this year. He said all activities by political parties and associations of a political nature have been suspended on the grounds of maintaining public order. This was disclosed by a local media. More than 80 political parties and civil groups recently called for presidential elections as soon as possible and an end to military rule. The junta said presidential elections will be held in February, but they were postponed, sparking outrage among political groups.
And back on the home front, an ultra-modern fuel station, Andy Oil and Gas, restaurant and lounge has been inaugurated as part of efforts to encourage the youth and contribute meaningfully to the state's economic development. The outfit, located in the state capital, was formally commissioned over the weekend. The report. Details of that report will be brought to you in our subsequent bulletins. Governor Sheriff Oboriwori has congratulated the first military administrator of Abia State, retired Air Vice Marshal Frank Ajobena, on his 75th birth anniversary. In a statement by his chief press secretary, Sir Festus Ahon, Governor Oboriwori underscored the significance of the many years of Air Vice Marshal Ajobena's service to the state and the nation. He noted that Air Vice Marshal Ajobena's military career saw him through sensitive and strategic leadership positions in the Nigerian Air Force. Governor Oboriwori expressed satisfaction with the celebrant who served the nation meritoriously with his wealth of knowledge, wisdom, and experience. He described the retired senior Air Force officer as a man who spoke truth to power and thanked him for his contributions to the state's development as a member of the Delta State Advisory and Peace Building Council. He prayed God to grant him good health and wisdom in the service of his community and the state at large. It's time now to join our business news desk for happenings in the business sector. Please stay with us.
The Transmission Company of Nigeria has said it has fully restored the national electricity grid, which collapsed in the early hours of today. The TCN disclosed this in a statement today in Abuja. Earlier, the grid collapsed from 2,583.77 megawatts at 2 a.m. today to 64.7 megawatts around 3 a.m. This makes it the sixth time the power grid collapsed in 2024. The company attributes the collapse of the national grid to a fire outbreak at the Afam Power Generating Station. The National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, says price of gari, yam, and apple and other food items have increased in the month of March. The Bureau disclosed this in a report titled Consumer Price Indices Report for March 2024, released today. The report shows that the price of food items has skyrocketed, leaving many people unable to afford stable foods. On food inflation, the Bureau said the food inflation rate in March 2024 was 40.01% on a year-on-year basis, which was 15.56%, which was 15.56 percentage points higher compared to the rate recorded in March 2023. Further analysis of the report showed that southern states, led by Abia and the Cross River, recorded the highest food prices on a month-on-month basis. On the other hand, states within the northeast, Borno and Yobe, recorded the lowest food inflation during the time.
Director General of the National Orientation Agency, NOA, Malam Lanre Issa Onilu, said sports is one of the 7 items his agency intends to exploit in developing a new national value charter for the country. Malam Onilu stated this when some members of the Sports Writers Association of Nigeria, SWAN, Kwara State Chapter, visited him in Ilorin, the state capital. He said Nigeria was yet to codify those attributes that define what it means to be a Nigerian. The NOADG said Nigerians had not invested in what makes a true Nigeria and a unique identity as Nigerians, adding that a situation where Nigerians are fans of clubs in the English Premiership is not the best for Nigeria. He explained that the NOA was closely working with the Minister of Sports, Senator John Eno, with a view to changing the culture to one which not only enhances the Nigerian brand and true character, but also helps in making sports a big business in the country. One of Nigeria's famous distance running coaches, Stephen Nuhu, has described the world-acclaimed and World Athletics Gold Level of Pepe International 10-kilometer road race as a blessing to Nigeria. In a statement, Coach Nuhu commended the organizers of the race on the 10th anniversary for the historic feat, saying it has put Nigeria on the map of the world as a destination for sports. The Plateau State-born coach, who is known for producing most of today's elite long-distance runners in Nigeria, said Okpekpe Race was the only international road race in Nigeria that would not discriminate between Nigerian elite runners and their foreign counterparts, stressing that the Okpekpe Race had provided transport subsidies and accommodation for the nation's elite athletes the same way it did for foreign elite athletes. That's the size of our bulletin for tonight. Just before we go, here is the thought. Doubts today should not limit tomorrow's possibilities. Absolutely so. To end Delta Television main news, here are the highlights. The Chairman, House Committee, House of Assembly on Education, Honorable Charles Emetulu, has reiterated the commitment of the 8th Assembly in ensuring the education sector meets the expectations of Deltans. Honorable Emetulu stated this when he led members of the committee to the Delta State Polytechnic, Ogwashuku, and the Denis Osadebe University, Asaba, in continuation of its oversight visit to education institutions in the state. The state government has prohibited journeys on waterways in the state by practitioners in the movie industry without the use of life jackets and other safety apparatus. The prohibition is contained in a statement in a condolence message by the Commissioner for Culture and Tourism, Dr. Nnamdi Ije, to the families of those who lost their lives in the ill-fated boat incident on the River Niger, including Junior Pope Odomodo, popularly known as Junior Pope. The federal government has appealed to members of the National Union of Electricity Employees not to down tools over the recent electricity tariff hike. An official of the union, Mr. Debi Adeyeye, in an interview with journalists, said the union stood by its warning to the federal government. So much for Delta Television News. On behalf of the news editor and the production team, Onome Iyaroe, thanking you for watching. Do have a beautiful night rest.